Hey, good morning. Someone has asked me if I had a contract, say, of 5 years, and I was unfairly terminated in year 2, am I entitled to earn my salary for the remainder of my period? All right. And if I'm to expand the question, you could also be asking, if I was employed under permanent and pensionable terms, and these people have terminated me unfairly before my retirement age, am I entitled to the remainder of the earnings of my salary as damages? Okay. Now, what we call that in employment law, we call that anticipatory earnings. So basically the question is, am I entitled to anticipatory earnings if I had a contract and it was terminated before the contract ended? Okay. So, of course, in law, it always depends. But I will give you the general rule. The general rule is that anticipatory earnings are not awarded to employees, okay? Because the Employment Act under Section 49 says for justification of having been, for remedying this, having been terminated unfairly, then you're supposed to be paid a maximum of 12 months your salary. Okay, so 12 months your salary is the default damages that are associated with you having been unfairly terminated. Okay, so the only other situation, the only other case where the court can consider to pay you anticipatory earnings over and above this 12 month salary is one, when it had been provided expressly in the contract that in the event you're terminated midway, then you will be paid the remainder of your earnings for your term. So it must have been expressly captured in your contract. Number two, you need to demonstrate that there are special circumstances, namely that owing to that termination, you are unable to secure alternative employment. Okay, so there are people who work in very, very, very specialized fields, na ukifutwa hapo kupata kazi mali kwingine ni ngumu sana. So, and maybe kufutwa kwako hapo kutaonesha other industry players that you're not to be relied upon because of how sensitive or specialized the role is. Maybe you're a pilot of a particular specific airplane and you're terminated, and securing employment elsewhere becomes a problem because the CAA or the airports or the airlines will look at this person and say, this guy was terminated on this account, as a job. Then if you demonstrate that securing alternative employment is a problem, then now they would consider. So the general rule is anticipatory earnings are not guaranteed in the event of unfair termination, because it is not a guarantee. It's an hypothetical situation that maybe even on your own volition ungewacha kazi na huyo employer. So si guarantee that kwa sababu ulikuwa na 10 years contract, you would have worked with them for 10 years. Maybe halfway ungekufa, ama maybe halfway ungeacha kazi, ama maybe halfway ungetokea na retrenchment. So it's not a guarantee that you would be paid the anticipatory earnings unless you demonstrate that you are unable to secure alternative employment as a result of the termination, or that the same was captured in your employment contract. Now, there are many cases now that are coming up, and I'll just highlight two. There's a famous case of D.K.N. Jagi Marete versus Teacher Service Commission. This gentleman was a lawyer with the Teacher Service Commission. He was terminated unfairly. I think he was 50 years old. He was supposed to retire. He was under permanent and pensionable terms. He was to retire, of course, at 60. So he was claiming to be paid the 10 years remainder. He was denied. One, because he sought alternative employment. He became a judge. And so it was said that it's not that he was unable to secure alternative employment as a result of the termination. Also, in Section 49, which provides the circumstances the court will consider before awarding you damages, one of them is did you mitigate the loss after you are terminated? Ulifanya nini? Ulikaa tu nyumbani ndwe ama ulienda ukatafuta alternative employment? Kama ulikaa nyumbani ndwe, watasema ile damages yako tutai reduce, because you have a duty to also mitigate your own loss. So that is one case. The other one that I can remember is Geoffrey Wakio versus Geoffrey Wakio versus KBC. So this guy was an employee of KBC. He was terminated. First, he was suspended, interdicted on half salary on account of fraud, and then after 1 year he was terminated, and then he had to battle his criminal case in court, and finally he was vindicated and acquitted. And then of course the termination was upheld to have been unfair, and he battled his case and for like 7 years. So he was praying to God that for all the years that he had been terminated, he gets paid his salary. It was held that those are speculative earnings. So the general rule is that anticipatory earnings are not guaranteed to employees. Okay, you must demonstrate special circumstances, and that's why I always advise people, if you are encountering any legal problem before you are terminated, please reach out to a lawyer. Lawyer ndo atakuguide, atakupikia kipindi, atakwambia now we need this evidence in, we need this evidence in, we need this evidence in, so that if you are to demonstrate this case in this light, utapata damages. But if you just stay it out paka we're terminated, then sometimes it's very hard to reconstruct a case. All right. So good morning. I hope I have answered your question. Cheers.